Welcome to the Real Talk Weekly podcast, where we discuss news, culture, life, and dive into deep conversations about our faith. Here's your host, Alan Reed.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Real Talk podcast. I'm Alan Reed here with my friends, Allie, David, and James.
Hello. I really expected you to be like, just introduce James and me and then leave Allie out.
Oh,
from
my.
the last conference.
That would have been funny. That would have been good.
Thing she said about us.
I would have gotten you back.
So
and Allie,
you would have.
Is it
That was my fear.
Allie, no eating this week
anymore.
on this week's recording.
I wasn't.
We heard
on camera.
We heard from David,
Jim.
primarily
Yes.
from David, that we were disgusting.
Yeah,
last
I'm the
week.
one that has to edit it.
We
so.
apologize, and
Listen,
we're glad that you're back.
When you put M&Ms in front of me, I'm going to eat them.
It
There's
was
no
a test.
food. No food today.
It's not Halloween, so
Listen
we're-
to our
I feel
lineup. Listen to our lineup. We have naughty license plates.
Naughty.
And I think that I'm saying this right because I just heard the Wiley seal.
The Wiley seal.
The Wiley seal.
Not coyote.
Creative investigating using fake social media accounts.
Woo.
I like it. And it's a
Catfishing.
great segue into the deep dish, which is America's crisis of distrust.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, which is actually very real. But before we get to all that, let's do our icebreaker.
Ooh, what is it today?
Let's get
What's our
warmed up.
shindy?
Stop it.
No.
No one knows
No
what that
more.
is.
Every
I don't
listener,
even want to give. I don't want to acknowledge
No.
it. I
Yeah.
usually
No,
just
just
ignore
keep
it.
going.
every listener knows it's a thing.
Just eat your M&Ms. We're moving on.
Yes, icebreaker. Here we go. If you had to be trapped in a TV show, which one would it be and why? I knew you guys would like this.
This one's interesting.
I don't want to go first
I don't
because
either.
I'm not ready.
I'll go.
I know which one you're going to want to be
I
in.
have
What am I going to want to be in?
Golden Girls?
Star Trek.
No, not Golden Girls.
There you go.
Golden
Do you
Girls
even know
in
me? We've
space.
been friends for 7
You
years
love
according
Golden
to Facebook.
Girls.
You do love Golden
I
Girls.
do love Golden Girls.
Yes.
Because it's just so simple. But you know what's really funny about Golden Girls is it's really a wildly inappropriate show.
Yes, it is.
So is Friends. So is like
Every
all the
show.
shows
They
that
all
everybody
are,
watches.
yeah. I
But I'm
know.
like, but do you think about it? That was in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And it was that
But
inappropriate.
80s was kind of like the decade
So which
of
Golden
like,
Girls would you
it was
be?
PG.
Oh, I wouldn't be
Golden
in
Girl.
Golden Girls.
Oh,
If I had to be a Golden Girls, I'd want to be Sophia because she's hilarious.
yeah.
She's
They're
so
all
sassy.
funny.
I would absolutely want to be in Star Trek.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what I thought.
Absolutely.
The OG Star Trek.
No, I don't want to be in the OG. I would
You
rather
do
be.
this. You can do this,
something.
right? You can do the hand thing. Oh, yeah, easy. His hands were already like
can't.
that. He's like,
I like my hands stay like that like
fail.
most of the time. No, I would love to be in Star Trek. To have all that ability and technology and and to try to use it for good. I love it. You guys are
And to
that's
use it for
Mork and
good.
Mindy. That's not Star Trek.
I don't know. David was doing it, so I
That's
started
true.
following.
That's so true.
Nanu. That's Mork
Yeah,
and Mindy.
that was more convincing.
Rest
all
in
the same
peace.
thing.
Another
Kinda.
good show.
Yeah.
All right. Since you guys are still thinking,
Yes.
The
They're still
Office.
thinking. The Office.
That's
The
a good
Office.
one.
Let me
Yeah.
guess. You think you're
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah.
Have you guys
Looks
noticed
at
a
camera
trend
and
here?
goes,
Yeah.
Alan is Tom Cruise. He's Jim. He's like
I
he's
did
the star
not
of
call
everything.
myself Tom Cruise.
That's right.
The country of South Korea.
The
The whole
entire
country.
country.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
While they were in
but
war,
I think
they were
I
like,
think
Tom,
we
save
Americans,
us.
especially we white ones, we all look the same to them. So,
We white ones.
so I look like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I look
So-
like John Candy.
But yes, The Office, because it would just be fun. It would just be fun to be with my buds in the office
Isn't
and
that
kind of
your
creating
life,
good,
though?
healthy culture. You know,
Isn't
Sure.
that your life though?
Yeah.
yeah.
You
Don't
kinda
we all
live the
kind of live in
And
the
I love my
office?
job.
Yeah.
Love my job. Yeah, The Office would be it.
I think I'm kind of skewed by what I'm watching right now,
Yeah.
but Home Improvement.
I was thinking that's exactly what you'd
Just
wanna
because
be
I
on.
love Tim
Wow,
Allen.
back to the old. Yeah,
But
that's a good one.
It's
classic.
really funny.
It's classic.
It's pretty good.
I
It
can
still
see
holds
that.
up.
That's a wholesome show.
I can see
It
a
is.
little bit of a Tim Allen vibe from you.
I love Tim Allen.
Do you know how to fix anything?
I can try.
But Tim Allen
I
didn't
definitely
know how to
don't
fix
know how to
anything.
add more power to anything. So
It was the other guy on the show that actually fixed
Al.
everything. Hal, yeah.
Al.
Al.
True.
Al Borland.
He was the real
He was the
Al.
real
carpenter.
handyman.
Yep.
He was the OxyClean man, wasn't he?
I was gonna dress up as him.
Was he?
No,
Was it-
he wasn't. I was gonna dress
Looks
up
like
as him for Halloween if we did anything.
Halloween.
Halloween. This is Halloween. This is Halloween.
I think I would want to be stuck in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Ooh, good one.
Is there a specific character
She's
or
Carlton.
just be in it? Be yourself in it? Or
I want to be myself in it.
Okay,
Yeah. I just want to live in that nice mansion and learn the Carlton dance and have Will as a. I assume he would be my cousin. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
It would be really fun.
Good choices. I think we learned a lot about each other today. All right.
I mean,
okay.
here's the thing. The one that surprised me was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Really? What would you have said?
I don't know. I would have thought like, I don't know, girl, like Gilmore Girls.
I just started watching that. I'd never seen it before.
Or New Girl. 100% New Girl.
Why does that have to be a girl?
You're Jess.
because Allie's a
Yeah,
girl.
hey, thanks, Alan.
He's like trying to put you in a box.
What's the
No.
song? What's the song you walked around here singing all the time? Just go ahead and sing it.
Who's that guy? It's Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great sermon opener.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? It's Wes.
Yeah, it's
It's from
the
her show.
The show's like, who's that girl? It's
Jess.
Jess. So they changed it to,
I have
who's
not
that
heard
guy? It's Wes.
It's great. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
We'll use it one day.
I'm sure it would.
We'll use it one day.
I don't think he's ever going to let you
No.
do that.
He would love that.
Maybe when the sermon
Let me know
series
when
is
you
on
do that.
friendship.
All
Or
right.
inappropriate
You guys
things.
ready to get into our dishes?
Let's do it.
It's time for the dish.
Well, James. James, we're gonna let you go first.
And you won't let
with
me
the Wiley seal.
announce
I don't
the
have
seal.
any prep on this one, so
You
you're
don't,
gonna-
because I changed my
I
topic
know.
at the last
Yes.
second.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of Schubert?
Mama
I've heard of
Schubert
Sherbert.
rolls.
No, I've never heard of that.
I've heard of sherbert.
Nope. Schubert is a gray
Schubert?
seal. Schubert is a gray seal that is believed to have traveled to a pond in Massachusetts through like rivers and drainage pipes. But here's what's super funny.
Drainage pipes.
Yeah.
Different from a river.
Yep. After evading authorities, a wayward seal made its home in a Massachusetts pond. However, what makes the story fascinating to me is that the seal itself surrendered at a police station on Friday morning.
Oh, he
Wait,
turned
it
himself
walked
in?
into a police station?
So the gray seal appeared earlier this month at Shoe Pond in the city of Beverly, which is northeast of Boston in Massachusetts. The animal is believed to have traveled up to the pond from the sea via a river and drainage pipes. The seal quickly became the attraction and was even named Schubert because of its chosen pond, because, you know, it was in Shoe Pond. Firefighters and wildlife experts used boats and giant nets in an effort to capture the wily animal, but gave up after several fruitless hours. However, early the next morning, Schubert decided to leave the pond, cross the parking lot, and stopped in front of the police station.
Wow. Turn himself in.
And the police were like, we're pretty sure he was coming up to the police station looking for some help. So it was quickly corralled by a team of wildlife experts, firefighters, and police departments. And the entire midnight shift, according to a post from the police, Schubert appeared to be in good health and was a little sassy in the early morning hours, the department reported.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Good word.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this seal. And there's a picture of Schubert, and he's giant, and he's brown, and he's adorable, and he's like fuzzy and fluffy. And so, yeah, they
I hope he
transported
finds
That's
him
what they
his
say
home.
about me is
Giant.
brown.
Brown.
Okay, fine. I was looking at a picture of myself, but
Do we like post links to these? Like,
Yeah.
we totally
good,
should.
Oh, yeah, we
Good.
do.
Good.
And so it's like
good for them.
the police department said, you will be deeply missed by your friends here. Over the past week, you've brought a lot of joy and happiness to our city. Feel free to come back and visit anytime.
Oh, I hope he finds his home.
So
That's sad.
yeah, but 2:30 a.m. he decided to wander in front of the police station and be like, "Okay, I'm done. You can
I
take me
give
now."
up.
Not so wily anymore.
No, he's giving up his wily ways.
Good.
But could you
story.
imagine being that police officer that walks out the door and there's a seal here
What do you do? How do you catch a seal? You lasso it?
with.
Oh man, if I was prepared, I would have.
I think you
I would
just.
have had something.
I think you just stand in front of it and go, oh. I think they like
I think
tricks.
that's offensive to them.
Yeah. That
to a
is.
seal.
A
Yeah,
bucket
absolutely.
of fish.
Are you kidding me? Have you seen the seals perform for fish at like aquariums
Yeah,
and stuff?
you got to get a bucket of fish.
Yeah, you got to get a bucket of fish.
Yeah, kind of generalizing.
It's my
there.
favorite dinner. Bucket of fish.
Bucket of
Bucket
fish.
O fish.
Allie,
This one is flipping crazy. Okay,
Flippin' crazy.
so the state of
like this
Maine,
one.
unknown for anything other than beautiful leaves in the fall, I
Foliage.
think. Foliage. Also another F-bomb. Anyways, so they've been allowing F-bombs and other obscenities on vanity plates in the state.
What?
not
I don't know
Not
how
too
they even got started with this. There are a couple of my favorite quotes from this article, though. One that really sums it up is, it's a bit of a head scratcher how a bunch of descendants of Puritans in a New England state ended up putting some of the raunchiest messages on state-issued license plates.
Wow.
But they really had a problem with a bunch of F-bombs or F and then other letters, you know,
Clearly to
yes,
indicate.
yes, or like some other vulgar physical things on these license plates. They call it
Naughty.
a laissez-faire approach, and they describe it as the wild, wild west of vanity plates.
Wow.
So
Maine.
they issued.
There's nothing to do in Maine.
There's nothing to do. What do these poor people have to live for other than their vanity plate and the foliage? So, anyways, they issued 40 recalls, and now they've created a committee to go after these people with these inappropriate vanity plates. And they're going to stop this madness.
Big
So
government.
wait, are they like
Big government
Fining
Big
them?
government.
Or are they just making them change
I think
their
it's
license
just
plate?
that you have to get a new license
You're
plate,
beginning
but
with
you
the
already had
request.
to pay for a vanity plate.
Yeah. So
So
you should get your money back, right?
No, it's probably just
No,
you take a
if you
hit for
did
the
that,
team.
that's your fault. You should lose the money.
Yeah.
They allowed it.
It is odd to me that they would ever allow it to begin with.
Yeah, that is surprising.
But they
always
said it's
wanted
going
to
to
have
take
my
a
own
couple
specialty
months for them to
license
track
like that.
everyone down.
Did you want an F-bomb on it, Alan?
No. I wanted one that said, oops, or I sorry.
I sorry.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I hope you get that.
I want to get license plates for you that just say I sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because that's the way I drive.
so one of the ladies who's a part of this, she's really passionate about it. She's not currently, but was formerly the director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Maine. So big deal, I guess. But she says, what I would say to those who want to engage in objectionable or questionable speech, so Alan, this might be for you, get a bumper sticker. Yeah,
That's
you
fair.
don't have to put it on your plate. Just get a bumper sticker, and
That's
it's
true.
exceptionally less offensive that way.
Good stuff. Good. So we all need license plates,
Just not vain ones.
not vain
Not
ones. Yep.
profane.
Not profane or vain.
Profane and vain, baby.
All right, David, you're up.
Well, I guess I got the most like normal
And yours is a good segue to the deep dish.
normal article.
You're so normal.
Yeah, so boring.
Remember when we played Never Have I Ever and David won because he doesn't do anything?
No,
It's
it's
true.
because it was cutthroat.
Yeah, it was.
Came for me.
You called us all fatties.
That was mean. Anyways, so this article says that BBC tries to understand politics by creating fake Americans. So this is a very interesting article. So this reporter named Mariano Spring, who's a reporter for BBC, she created 5 fake social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok to really figure out how advertising and these platforms focus on specific kinds of people.
That is so smart.
It's interesting, but also there's
Elon
some
gotta shut her down.
arguments
I
that
thought
can
I
be
knew
had
this
here.
before.
So she says we're
But I
doing
didn't.
it with very good intentions because it's important to understand what's going on. But there's plenty of other people that say they cry foul. But anyways, so her goal was she created 5 different archetypes of people. So you have like, she said this guy named Larry who's very liberal, or sorry, conservative Larry, and you have very liberal Emma, Brittany who's a populist conservative. So you kind of have all different areas on the spectrum of politics. And then you have Gabriella, largely apolitical independent, and then Michael, a black teacher from Milwaukee, who's moderate Democrat. So you have kind of just every parts of the spectrum on political opinion. And so what she did, she didn't post, but the fact was she was trying to be very like, she only followed accounts at that point. And so based on what archetype this person was, she started receiving different advertisements and different things based on their beliefs and political beliefs. So you have like your wildly conservative
You get all political stuff.
conspiracy
that are-
theories, and then you have your wildly liberal conspiracy theories based
Birds
on
aren't real.
yeah, like that. And so it's very interesting to see, like, since especially this year and after the election in 2020, you had all these social media platforms saying that they were cracking down on misinformation and hate speech and all this other stuff. But clearly they're not doing it well enough. So interesting enough, the most major social media companies have policies written that you cannot have impersonating accounts. So, which begs the question is this really good reporting? Yeah, there's some interesting arguments to be made for is this like legit.
Are they saying that because she didn't post on the accounts, and so therefore there was no like history for the algorithm?
Yeah, there were some arguments there, like that she's reporting these facts or these findings without taking full advantage of how the algorithm works. Mm-hmm. And so you can't really make these definitions of what she's finding without using the actual algorithm the right way. Because like they take into effect like what you post, how you comment on other people's things,
what you like,
and what you like, and things like that. So
because the algorithms are real. Like I know for me,
we know
I get sucked.
We're
into
fighting
the
the
never-ending
algorithm as
I get sucked into the never-ending reels, right? And so whenever.
Speaking of, you need to like, share, and subscrib to help.
Too soon, man.
Fight that
No,
out.
we need to do this more during the show.
Yeah, comment. Then talk about how mean Allie is to us. No, like my friend Cliff one time was talking about how he loves to show us things on YouTube, and so we'll be at his house and he'll pull up things that he's seen, like advertisements or whatever. And all of a sudden, there's all this like really weird stuff showing up in his in his YouTube feed. And he said, "Yeah, my sister was logged into my YouTube account, was doing some searching, so now I've got all her junk in there." Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, the algorithms are real.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's that odd. I mean, I guess taking it to social media is a little different, but marketing companies have done this forever.
Yeah.
You always make a persona or your archetype, and then you market your product towards that person. So I don't understand what's so wrong about taking it to social media. People are on social media catfishing every day, so...
I think it's more or less you're a trusted, quote unquote, trusted news agency exploiting a social media platform against their rules.
Yeah.
Well, they exploit us against our rules.
I get that.
Absolutely.
I like what she did, but I get the fact that a reporter who, quote, has standards. That I'm not a reporter, but I would guess that many of them don't follow their own.
And I think the argument too is that the ethics is there, but also they're not using the full.
She wasn't getting
algorithm.
a real.
She's not getting real
basis.
data.
But she probably got some pretty good results anyways.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I'm sure she got some really interesting results.
Yeah, the teacher, probably got things that were gonna probably reinforce what he already believed. Same with the conservative person. Mm-hmm. That happens. I look at my feed and it's got stuff that probably I would be interested, in looking at. Yeah, I think it's impossible for any reporter not to be influenced by their own biases.
Walter Cronkite.
All of them did. And all of them do, and we do too, as well. But yeah, I found it interesting. I thought what she did was awesome. Kudos to her. Maybe if she were to go back and do it again, maybe post a few things and try to reinforce it. People would have criticized that too, like, a conservative would never have said this, or a liberal never would have said this. But
yeah, I just find it interesting that she's like already. She should have waited a little bit longer before posting sharing all these results, because like now people know that these people are a fake.
Yeah.
So it's like now the experiment is over. Like you can't go back.
I kind of assumed it was already over. That's why she wrote the article.
That's what I'm saying. She didn't go to the full extent of using the algorithm the way that it says it's supposed to be used and stuff like that to get real results.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The crazy thing that's happening.
But then she's breaking the terms of policy. So it's kind of like
what we see on social media where you unfollow someone that you don't like. Maybe it was a friend from high school, but they went crazy one direction or the other, and you unfollow them, blah, blah, blah. And you begin just circling yourself with people that think like you. We're doing that in America. I mean, people are like leaving California in droves because it's kind of a crazy state, and they're going to red states. And you have people probably in red states that are going to liberal states. And so we're really siloing ourselves in a lot of ways. Which does lead us to our deep dish. That was a good article. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that, David?
No, we can transition.
Okay. No, I thought that was good. Good job, Miss Spring. I thought that was cool.
It's the deep dish.
The deep dish is America's crisis of distrust. And Allie picked this one out. I thought it was really, really good. She helped me out. I was having some trouble finding a deep dish. And so she quickly, in 5 minutes, found about 20 of them that I got to pick from. And this one was really good. So first, let's look at the poll. There's a poll that kind of emphasizes the fact that there's a lot of distrust. And so if you guys have that, my friends here, David, James, and Allie, you guys have the poll in front of you?
Yes, sir.
So it's pretty crazy. When you look at it, I'm going to start from the bottom up. when it comes to, I guess it was 16 different institutions in the United States that basically they polled on people's trust or distrust of that institution. The lowest one was Congress. Last year it was 12%, and if you couldn't go any lower than that, now it's at 7%.
And this is between all graphics of people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Like
not
that's
just-
the crazy thing.
Yeah. So Congress is at 7%, television news is at 11%, big business at 14, criminal justice system 14, newspapers 16, and I'll just read the next.
This is percent that think it's good. It's they
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah, they can
Yes.
trust it.
Yes.
The presidency 23%, the U.S. Supreme Court 25%, and then you have like your technology companies 26%. So, man, you just look at it. Congress is the lowest, but all three branches of the government fall under, I guess, the highest one. Supreme Court's 25%, and so
Churches are towards the top of the list. I mean, it's still 31%.
it's still 31%.
but it's towards the top of the list. And the thing that surprises me on here, because I didn't look at this until this morning, police are number 3. Police were polled as the third
on the list.
on the list. Polled
Yeah,
as the
they're
third
still on the
highest.
list.
What?
But they're still on the list
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
major institutions
That
to
people,
distrust.
well, but they are up there with they trust them.
Yeah.
So what jumps out at each of you? So let's start with David because he's had the longest time to look at this and he pointed out to us. Make sure and check it out. So what jumps out at you on this poll? What surprises you?
I think without spoilers or anything, what I thought was more interesting was the demographics of the political side of things was very, very interesting. But to save that for later, I was like, way to go, small business, 68%
Yeah.
trust. Let's go.
As a small business owner yourself,
Yeah. Well, my wife, yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. That is good. All right, James.
He said police.
I'm shocked. I mean, I'm shocked that military's up there and the police are up there.
Military's high too.
Like I'm shocked at that. Like small businesses doesn't surprise me at all. Everybody's touting small business. Small business is great because you go and you know the people. It's like small town, right?
Yep. Mayberry.
Yeah. I mean, and you know the people, so of course you're going to trust them. They're
Great
your
song.
buddies, they're your friends. You go to church with them. They're next door. Military was one of the things that surprised me because there's been a lot of stuff about military. Now, if you know anything about the military, they aren't their own thing. They're run by the government, but people trust the military. But I was with all of the stuff that has gone on in the past few years, especially regarding police and police brutality, alleged police brutality, and all that kind of stuff. I'm just really shocked that police was towards the top of the list of things that people did trust.
Yeah.
The way that's categorized. The rest of it doesn't shock me one bit.
No.
I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that the presidency is as high up the list as it is. I would have thought it would have been down there with Congress and television news.
Yeah. Look at the demographics.
Yeah.
And that will kind of show you what that is. Because right now the presidency for Republicans went from 12% to 2%.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it.
But surprisingly, on the Democratic side, it went from 69 to 51. So it dropped quite a bit too.
Yeah.
And independents will always be unhappy because they never get represented.
Right.
Allie, anything?
The one that's weird for me to look at is banks. I mean, I get it, but the fact that just barely over a fourth of our country is trusting of where they put their money is a little concerning to me. I think that I'm looking at the percentage of people who don't trust in these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all I can see. So military's up there at 64% and police are up there at 45%, but then that means that more than half the people don't trust the police and even less for military. But I don't know. It's just odd to me that it's odd and it makes sense at the same time. We're clearly not unified as a nation. But just how these are massive institutions. This is how our lives run. And we have literally essentially no trust in any of these things when you look at it. And so are we just all living life, just scrapping along, just barely making it? It's a big question, I feel like, for the church to answer, even though the church is on this list. But I feel like that's a good, like, what can you put your trust in?
Right. Yep. It's good. Good. Yeah. For me, I think what jumps out, and the percentage doesn't surprise me, but I think the missed opportunity, and that is for the church or organized religion being at 31%. Now, mind you, last year it was 37%. It was still low, and probably 10 years before, maybe it was 40% or something like that. But, I mean, we've known that. I can remember hearing that, 50, 60, 70 years ago, if a pastor showed up at your doorstep, just generally, he would probably have a pretty, he would be well respected in his community. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. But I'm torn because I know that as Christians and as a church, we ought to stand for what we believe in. And so I get that piece of it, but I also think it's so sad that we emphasize that so much that we break with such a large part of society. We have definitely, and I vote Republican, I'm conservative, but like we have so married ourselves to one side. It's just like, as a church, we're pretty well saying, man, if you're a Democrat, then either keep your mouth shut when you come or don't come, and so
Are you saying the church?
Yeah. And maybe that's not every church. I know every denomination is a little bit different. And, but for our denomination, for our tribe, we're very much on one side of things. And I just think, man, I know when I pastored in Colorado, it was definitely a different demographic. And I would say we were probably more 60-40, maybe 60% conservative, 40%. And we were always very careful to kind of protect that, and,
well, and like here, you were talking about our denomination, Southern Baptist, but like here, our pastor has always been very careful, and I've heard him say it, that, you don't need to stand on that hill, because you could have a good, solid Bible-believing Christian sitting next to you that's Democratic, that would not vote the same way you would, and it's okay. Yeah. We were doing we were talking about, oh gosh, what was it? I think it was the COVID vaccines, and there was a lot of uproar about the COVID vaccines. And I remember hearing our pastor say something that, I'm glad I heard it, because it blew my mind, but it was a great thing for me to hear, is that, two solid Bible-believing Christians can approach the same issue and come to a different conclusion. And we have to accept that, and there's some things we all need to agree on, but some of these little minutia details, kind of like, Democrat, Republican, all that kind of stuff, some of these things, you're going to see differently than the people next to you, and that's okay. Yeah. And if we haven't done a good job going back to the big convention, if we haven't done a good job, then that would lead to that distrust factor increasing.
Yeah. Yep. That's good. And I agree with you. So my theology hat says we need to stand for truth. My missionary hat says we need to find places of agreement or places where we can come together,
right.
And it goes back to America's crisis of distrust. And it reminded me of the fact that I think that we are so siloed. I watched a podcast not too long ago, and it was one of the guys on there was a journalist from the Northeast talking to a Christian podcaster. I forgot how they met, but I think it was through a mutual friend, and got together and began dialoguing off the air. But the guy that was the journalist up from the Northeast, which I grew up in the Northeast, so it was really something that I can understand and have experienced. But he said, we have people that are in our office at this major newspaper that they don't know anyone that would consider themselves an evangelical Christian. Like they don't know anyone. It's not just that they don't have a friend but they don't know anyone. And I think that speaks to most people. We surround ourselves with people like us so much. And I think that in a time like this, we've got somebody's got to be willing to help break down the walls, and that can only be done individually, to where we're beginning to listen to one another again.
The question I have too is that, do we want to be known to be? Yes, we want to be known, the church, to be a trustworthy thing, But what do you think led to this decrease in just a year? Like, that's a weird thing to me too. Is like there's such a decrease
It's
in
politics.
just over a year.
Politics, for sure. It's politics.
Just
I think
because
it's been over the last 10 years, last 15 years. And I'm not even sure. See, this is where I'm torn. I'm not even sure if there's anything we can do about it. You know, everyone's vocal. I mean, it's not just one side that's vocal. Everyone's vocal. And I do think social media has been an issue. As good as it was early on, I think it has been very divisive. But Christians, we have definitely gotten involved in politics, and as a church, we got to get, not as our church, but as a church with a capital C, got involved in politics. And in some ways, I feel like we've chosen that over the gospel, over the kingdom. And that's where I don't know where that fine line, well, there's a fine line. I don't know where that balance is, but I tend to choose kingdom all the time over. I will listen to somebody that I would disagree with. I will hold my tongue, learn from their perspective for the sake and for the goal of being able to potentially to have a conversation about faith. You know, and I'd choose that 10 out of 10 times you know, but that's me, you know. Someone else who is passionate about truth will, you know, fall a different way, and they have every right to. It's just tough.
I think they said it's been on a steady decline over the past 15 years, but this year is a new low across the board for all of those institutions. Yeah. But I think if you look back and reflect on the past 15 years, there's a lot of change that we've gone through. Yeah. Social media has been a huge thing. There have been different movements that I think play a role in this. So just feminist movement, I think, has been escalated in the past 15 years. You've got just racial movements that have come to fruition and just all these different things. So in my mind, those do affect all of the trust you have in these institutions, and specifically the church, because I think people lose a lot of trust in the church when they have an idea of how they think the church should respond or should be involved or should not respond or should not be involved. And then the church does the opposite of what their perspective was. Yeah. And I think that leads to distrust, which is an odd thing for me, because if I'm not a believer and I expect someone to act a certain way, it's not that I don't trust them anymore. It's just that they didn't add up. I would still trust them. I don't know. It's interesting. But I think that what we're seeing too is, and I don't know divorce rates over the past 15 years, but I would almost guess that they're exceptionally high. And I think that subconsciously our lack of trust in institutions is affecting relationships too. I think those things just sink in. And now if we're not able to even trust, you know, the people at this table, then how much less are we able to trust an institution that we'll never be able to actually form a one-on-one relationship with? Yeah.
And that's good that you said that. I think that kind of drives back to the main article, because, you know, it came out of, what was it? Psychology Today. Yeah. Psychology Today. So obviously their goal is to help build bridges, you know, between two people. And they use a lot of anecdotes here that go back to marriage, go back to kind of that core relationship, which I thought was good. So, you know, the overview of it is that when core beliefs and values have been broken or violated in some way, then there's got to be two things, is what this article said. There needs to be atonement for one, and what was the other one? I think that there's got to be effort in reconciling that. So atonement would be examine our role in the conflict and take personal responsibility. And you can kind of be like, gag. But, you know, relationship-wise, you think of like a marriage or friendships, when that's broken, that's what you got to do. And so they're putting this in the context of our country. Examine the role, you know, in your role in that conflict. And that's what we learn in marriage. I do marriage counseling, and I have to actually exercise what I'm teaching. And it's like, okay, I got to stop and listen. What is she trying to say? And I need to stop trying to figure out what my next move is going to be, and really hear her heart.
Chess.
So yes, but
well, and it's interesting because I was reading that, and you know, like the idea of the atonement thing, and it doesn't work if it's only one-sided, right? That's the bigger problem with it, is that we're all stubborn, we're all, we all think we're right. And so, when you're talking about one side of an issue or another, and even down to like the personal level, if you're talking about like a relationship where there's been hurt, it doesn't work. Atonement doesn't work if only one side is coming to the table saying, hey, I acknowledge what I've done. I'm sorry.
That's what makes politics so hard.
And the other side doesn't. And that's what, that's what makes politics so hard. And I think some of it too is, kind of to speak about what Ali was talking about with the movements, right? There's an automatic assumption, whether it's correct or not, but it's kind of like, if you think about, I'm not trying to be political here, but if you think about Democrat, typically the first thing that comes to my mind is the radical left. It's the people that are out there squawking and balking, and it's the ones that are making the headlines, and it's the ones that are out there saying stuff that's totally crazy, that's ridiculous. But that's not the majority of who classifies as a Democrat. I think there are way more moderate Democrats than there are radical left. But by default, we assume, like our mind goes to, at least mine does, radical left whenever I hear that. So on the flip side, I think there's this thought process, and as we're talking about the distrust rates going down, and David, you asked the question, why so suddenly, right? Well, so you think about a bunch of things. First of all, you've got, Roe versus Wade was turned over. Mm-hmm. And by default, there are so many radical conservative church organizations that have been so vocal and in not positive, good ways, against things related to abortion and all that kind of stuff. They don't take into consideration the health issues. Like, they're not balanced in their approach to how they deal with the abortion issue. Those, no, I'm talking about the radical ones. I'm not talking about the normal ones.
Alan,
I'm talking about the radical ones.
What do you think?
I think that one's just really tough. I agree with you. I mean, that's where politics gets so hard. I mean, because where do you compromise on abortion? From a typical conservative Christian, it's like, where's the nuance and where do you draw the line? No.
I'm not talking about having a different stance on abortion. I'm talking about the way you approach it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Westboro Baptist Church picketing, telling girls that are in crisis, God hates you, whenever they walk into the door of a Planned Parenthood. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's what you don't do. But since that's what makes headlines, and that's what people connect with whenever they see that, whenever something like Roe versus Wade gets overturned, it automatically, because of that association, reflects badly on all churches. Yeah. Even though we're not all Westboros, we're not all those churches that are going out there doing that, and most churches, I hope and believe, have a much better approach, which is like, hey, we want to help you through your crisis. We don't want you to get an abortion. We want to help you. What can we do to help you through this? But that's the problem. Just like the radical left Democrats that we see in the news, what people associate with is what they see more of, which is what makes headlines, which is why you don't trust TV and newspaper, is the people that are being the radical crazies on the other side.
Yeah.
And so I think we get lumped into that. And I think that's where that comes from, in that sudden distrust, because there have been a lot of movements that have made a lot of headlines. And there's been a lot of things that have happened, especially in the past few years, that as people are thinking about the things that those radical right side church conservatives, even though that's not really how we all behave, they automatically by default associate us with that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I'm talking about. Absolutely not trying to say that there's any any compromise on the position of abortion. I'm saying it's the way you approach it.
The solution is so hard. I really think it's going to have to be leaders in our communities and in our nation that really lead by example. Like, we really need people on both sides of issues to come together and have civil conversations and debates that are civil, and we hear both sides and allow people to truly be able to hear both sides, because that's how we learn. I mean, there are important things that we need to discuss, but we've lost civility, and we really need our leaders, including our faith leaders, to lead by example. I love podcasts where you have people with different views that are able to communicate those views and not be demonized for them. And to me, that's what I look for as examples for myself. And so just kind of wrapping things up, I think it would be good just for us to talk about what are a few things that we can do as individuals that can be a part of the solution.
I think, just quickly, I've been kind of just absorbing. I haven't talked a lot, but I think what Ali said earlier about social media and having trust really stems from a relationship. And so, wow, my voice is just all of a sudden
hit puberty.
You're choked up, aren't you?
Yeah, hold on.
You're about to make yourself cry.
It's okay, David. You can get through this.
I got this. So the fact that we are so absorbed with social media and ourselves, and the fact that we have trouble making relationships stems from this idea that we have problems giving trust to things.
Yeah.
And so I think one thing that we can do to help with this problem is, like you said, just have civil conversation and build relationships with people. But I think just not thinking of yourself so much better than everyone else.
Yeah.
I think humbling yourself.
I think that's a scripture.
Yeah.
I'm about to say that. That's
humility
really
is a huge
Christian
deal.
value. That
Humility is a huge deal when it comes to this kind of stuff, because the culture wants to say that you are the most important thing and your truth that you decide is the most important thing. And I'm not trying to like decide what is truth and what is not. That's another theological debate here, but just humbling yourself for like 2 seconds to hear someone else's idea, whether that's, like you said, James, hearing the other side of the coin of what you believe, whether that's looking at what the radical, quote unquote, radical side believes and parsing that to a fact of, okay, there's something deeper here. There's not necessarily what they're saying is exactly what they're meaning, but there's something deeper there to like, why do they believe that?
Yeah.
And then figuring that out and trying to connect with someone over that, not just demonizing somebody. Because I think blanket speech, just calling someone radical, really kind of defeats the purpose of creating that relationship.
Yeah.
And then that ends that whole discussion that you could have, because that person automatically turns off.
Yeah. I had a good conversation with my dad, who is.
Did he listen to the podcast?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He is, he is a strong conservative Republican, and of course, he's got grandchildren that are, 2 generations removed that think differently, and sometimes it can be a real struggle for him. I can remember having a conversation with him because he's really old school in the way he communicates with a very different generation, and I just said, Dad, do you just want to be heard, as in spouting off what you believe, or do you want to be effective and influence your grandchildren?
You Oprah Winfrey'd him.
And so
said,
I
were
did.
you
I
silent
did.
or were you silent?
And basically, it's just like we want to be effective in our communication. If we really want to influence people, then choose platforms and ways to be influential. And it typically means listening and learning about the other person and their perspective and earning the right to be heard. And when you're able to do that, then what you have to say can be a whole lot more powerful. And you might actually learn something along the way too. And so, sorry about that. But yeah, that's my advice, is listen, find people, not like you have to make a ton of new friends, but find some people that think differently than you and get to know them, hear their story, and kind of humanize the other side, that they have the same dreams and interests that you do.
Yeah.
And
but my question would be, and obviously we probably will go long, but that's fine, is this fact that the article is saying commit to non-defensive repair attempts and commit to validation, not persuasion. How do we go about as Christians to approach these big things, like we were talking about abortion and divorce and things like that? How do we approach that without having to say that we apologize for something, if that's something we truly believe in?
yeah,
Like, if you truly believe in something, why should you apologize for it? Now, like James said, you should apologize for doing it the wrong way, like demonizing someone because of it. But practically, how do we go about having these conversations with this kind of idea to build trust?
I think maybe, Allie, did you want to share something there?
No, you go ahead. I'll share after
I think
you.
maybe just acknowledge that, or try to identify with their perspective. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but 2 weeks ago, I got an email from someone who got an email from our church. And it was totally by accident. I think someone typed in the wrong email address, but basically wrote back and just says, I don't know how I got on this email list. I'm a secular humanist. I don't believe in supernatural beings. I believe, he kind of went into this thing. I believe, I disbelieve in everything. And one of the statements that he made was, he just said, I do not believe in supernatural beings. I believe people are innately moral on their own without an angry God. and then he says, I believe religion has a negative impact on our nation and our people and our people's lives. And so I was thinking, he basically just wanted to be removed from our list, right?
He just said unsubscribe.
But he took the time to communicate his thoughts, and he was offended that he got something from us. And so I spent like a week just like, do I reply? Do I not? And so I ended up replying, and I basically just broke down his email, and I responded to each of those belief statements or disbelief statements. And after writing it for like an hour, I like deleted like 90% of it and kind of went with the core, like my first sentence or two is what I went back to. And I basically said to the one thing, I just said to him, while I don't agree with your statement about religion having a negative impact on our nation and people's lives, I just said, while I don't agree with this statement, I can understand why you'd feel this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the one sentence I kept. I like had this whole thing. I was like, no, that's not, And so at the end, I just said, hey, look, here's my personal email. If you want to continue the conversation, reach out to me.
Yeah.
And that has not happened yet. It's only been like 10 days since I replied to it. But I was like, I could have just been kind of rude or a little snarky back and been like, look, could have just simply just said, remove me from the, from the list. But I was like, I really want to try to meet him halfway.
Yeah.
And so I think
he said something in there that's very interesting, and it's very telling as to why he feels the way he does. People are innately moral without an angry God. Mm-hmm. He has a completely
different worldview,
unrealistic view of who God is.
Yeah,
but
that's understandable because he doesn't
know
understand, know the Bible.
Yeah.
I think so. It's weirdly spiritual, but sometimes it's so weird. Our approach needs to be like our heart has to be softened, right? So that we don't respond defensively, but it's kind of the same way we approach our sin. Like our heart has to be softened so that we recognize that we're in the wrong. We recognize we need forgiveness, and we also have to recognize like what technically we should receive for that. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. For me, and this is a personal one for me, there's been a lot of hurt people hurt by the church over the last year. There's a lot of church abuse conversations happening. And for me, I am defensive about those things. And I think it's because I work at a healthy church, which I'm very grateful for. But I know that that's not the case. Healthy churches are not the majority, probably even. So learning how to communicate with people, but also standing my ground is I have to soften my heart. I have to approach it that we're both sinful people having a conversation most of the time about sin. Mm-hmm. And that's where our differences come in. But I have to soften my heart to understand why they feel the way they do, explain the truth that I know is truth. And I have to stand by that and not apologize for it. And it's not a sense of pride. And it's just more so that this is what I know to be true because it is my story now. And so you can't apologize for the way that your life's been changed by something. And I think that's how we do that without being defensive about things.
Yeah. I just, when I hear that first commit to non-defensive repair attempts, it just instantly makes me think of the temptation of like, forgive when someone's saying I was hurt by the church, trying to apologize for the church.
Yeah, you can't.
And you just can't do that.
Yeah.
Because
I thought the same thing.
Like relationship wise, that's why building that relationship is so important, because that person knows you and knows what you believe and knows what you've done and kind of things like that. And apologizing for the church isn't going to do anything for that person. Yeah. I think just trying to overall apologize for something that's not, it's like saying, I apologize for your sin. And I can't do that. Like there's no way I can do that. But I think there are ways, like you're saying, like just understanding that both of y'all are sinful people and trying to approach that in a, human way.
And your natural response is, the human way is to be like extremely defensive and not kind. And that's just what happens to us when we get flustered. Like even physically, like, you know, you get like those goosebumps and then your blood gets a little hotter than it usually is and things like
Because
that.
our goal is to win the argument at that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
And
competitive by
when
nature.
we're afraid we might fail, or we're afraid we may not have a good response. But if we're really going in and just like, you know what, I think I just really want to figure out what this person believes and why.
That's why you have those conversations in the shower about like, well, what if this happens? Here's how I'll respond.
Yeah.
And all those things. But yeah, I think it's really a conversation in humility is I think where that has to start.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I like this.
You like our podcast?
Yeah, I
do
of course,
too.
I like that. But this kind of a topic is so hard and so complicated. But I think that we have a lot to learn as Christians in the church. Yes, we need to be, as Christians in politics, we need to be involved in all that. But I think as the church, we need to choose the kingdom first. We need to choose the kingdom first. We need to build bridges. We need to listen and be effective. If we really want to make a difference in our communities, then it's gonna mean we have to put down our political hat for a moment, because we're representing Christ now. We're not representing what our political stances are, and we're engaging them for the purpose that's much greater than the politics of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you think like you stand in front of Jesus, and at that point, like you're like, you defended this political person more
what
than
did you
me.
do with your 5
Like,
talents,
Yikes.
David?
Yeet.
Ooh,
That hurts a
yeah.
little bit, you know.
Just hand me the crown of thorns.
I thought we talked about E last week.
Yeet.
Yeet.
Oh, we
Yeet.
talked about that a few weeks ago.
We talked
Yes,
about,
we did.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, you weren't here for
You guys
the
had
yeet,
fun without me.
the yeet conversation.
Where you guys made fun of me for being old, which was kind of funny. I have
That's
to admit.
It
every
was
week,
funny.
Alan.
Yeah,
It was
it
funny.
usually is.
I did slip in
I learned a
some
lot here.
old jokes here.
I learned a lot on this show with you youngins. So, all right. Anything else to close? Anyone have a closing thought?
We already said it, but don't forget to.
Vote, because this episode goes out on Tuesday.
Yay!
It does go out.
It is. This goes out on
Tuesday.
What is it called? The day of
Hey, we're not supposed to get
Elections?
political.
election day.
not
Election day. Next week on Tuesday.
What
But
do you-
we
what do you-
vote. But we
that
vote on
thing?
Friday.
Yeah.
You vote
The day
and-
that you voted the
Veterans
election. What's
Day.
it called?
But I don't
Veterans Day.
think we don't actually vote on Tuesday, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, the voting is
polls
open
close.
now. But
Alan's like, can I get my
I'm
sticker
so
still or
confused.
not?
I was looking at the calendar and I thought we voted.
You know,
on
if
it.
you
I don't
don't
know.
post
The
the
yard
picture
signs are everywhere.
It
of
didn't
the sticker,
happen.
it didn't happen.
Yep.
Your
You
vote doesn't
didn't
count. So you need to make sure
in
you
the
post it.
clearest, succinct
That's how they
way,
count 'em.
tell us when we can vote.
Well,
Early voting is open now.
Yeah, you can vote
The
now.
polls close Tuesday at 7 or midnight
like that.
or something like that. I don't know.
Check your local
yes, please don't
succinct.
listen to us.
Yes,
Go
we are not
check your
voting
local-
experts. I'm voting early. I'm voting tomorrow. So
Yeah, I'm gonna
I don't have
try
to worry
to-
about.
Yeah, I got to try to fit it in my schedule. That
Meeting
sounds so
rush.
bad.
Yeah.
But
Anyways,
what I was
what you're
actually
trying
to say is don't forget to
Like,
Subscribe
And share.
and comment.
and
Yep.
prescribe because maybe we're the medicine you need. You know what
oh
I'm
my
saying?
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
We're definitely not that.
We done.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
And blessings.
Bye.